so fun to meet you, and just coming here today, I was like, this is such a full circle moment because my book is coming out this week, and I talk about you and the work that we did in our book because it's all about my, transformation in my relationship with money, and you were like the first step for that for me. I was such a hot mess financially when I started working with you.
I never thought of you that way.
No, I was like very avoidant, very anxious. I just graduated from my master's degree, so I was really in that mindset of like, I'm taking on debt for my education and I'll deal with it later, and then suddenly I graduated and I was like, well, now is the time to deal with it, and where do I start, So yeah, it was really life-changing, the work that we did together, and then the tools that you gave me and just, like tracking my money, like starting spreadsheets, like really those simple building blocks were just like such a catalyst for me to really continue building a much healthier relationship with money.
Hey there, and welcome to Money and You. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host. My search for more fulfilling work led me to career and business coaching, where I stumbled upon a game-changing discovery. Money issues often start with our mindset and habits. You see, our relationship with money is the key to overcoming those frustrating financial obstacles. As an entrepreneur, coach, and problem solver, I'm passionate about helping you create a great relationship with money. Because, turns out, that's the foundation for a limit-free life. Each week on Money and You, I speak with amazing guests about all things money, mindset, practical tips, and everything in between. We're here to give you new insights, education, and empowerment so money can be one of your favorite relationships. So join us for some lively conversations and let's transform your financial life together. Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Money and You Show. This one is truly special, a very unique episode because we have Sarah Mack in studio, and Sarah reached out to me not too long ago, and we had worked together 7 or 8 years ago, and she has built and created such an amazing business since then and really developed her own mindset and then her own skills helping other people with money mindset. And she's got just a beautiful, interesting way of doing what she does. And I'm going to give you a little information on her background. And then we're going to dive in because she is just, I'm so excited that she's here. So anyway, she has so much to tell you. She has a new book out. And if you want to understand your relationship with money at all, this is going to be a great show for you. So Sarah Mack is a creative brand strategist and money mentor for creative entrepreneurs who want six-figure years without being glued to their laptops while living a life where health, adventure, and creativity are the priority. She helps coaches, healers, and creators to earn more by attracting clients through a unique blend of authentic storytelling, astrology, and social media content strategy. She hosts the top-rated Creative Magic Club podcast and has performed her original music internationally while exploring 18 countries since founding her business in 2015. Originally from the UK, she now calls Los Angeles home, which I'm super excited about. And you can see her website up there. Live wildly rich and creatively free is her tagline here. So you can discover more at withsarahmack.com. Welcome.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for having me. So excited to be here.
I know. I feel like I'm so loud and excited right now, and you're so like beautifully quiet and gracious. So anyway, I'll try to tone it down, I think. But I am so excited that you're here. We worked together a long time ago, but I never forgot you. You were such a wonderful person to work with and so like receptive to new ideas, so creative yourself. You were already a creator back then. And so I'd love for you to kind of help people learn a little about your journey from when, even, and me, I want to hear the journey. I haven't really heard it yet. All of a sudden, out of the blue, I got you reached out to me on Instagram or something. Yeah. And just let me know that she was here in LA and had, we just reconnected, and we never actually met until today. It was all on the phone back then. It wasn't even Zoom.
Yeah, it's so fun to meet you. And just coming here today, I was like, this is such a full circle moment because my book is coming out this week. And I talk about you and the work that we did in our book because it's all about my, transformation in my relationship with money. And you were like the first step for that for me. I was such a hot mess financially when I started working with you.
I never thought of you that way.
No, I was like very avoidant, very anxious. I just graduated from my master's degree. So I was really in that mindset of like, I'm taking on debt for my education and I'll deal with it later, and then suddenly I graduated and I was like, well, now is the time to deal with it. And where do I start, So yeah, it was really life-changing, the work that we did together. And then the tools that you gave me and just, like tracking my money, like starting spreadsheets, like really those simple building blocks were just like such a catalyst for me to really continue building a much healthier relationship with money. Yeah. And I remember the income tracker that you gave me, it was like a piece of paper that I printed off. It was so simple. It had like cute graphics on it. Like I was still using that when I crossed my first six-figure year, like 3 years later, and it was just that act of like writing down all the money that was coming in and being grateful for it and focusing on bringing more in. Like it's so powerful and transformative, these simple tools when you actually use them, right? So
yeah, that's the key. It's actually, the tools they don't do anything on their own. It's like what you do with it. So
100%. So yeah, when we worked together, I was like in the middle of emigrating, trying to emigrate to 2 countries at once. Actually, I was trying to get my residency in Canada, but my partner had already moved to the US to study go to medical school. And so I was like trying to live in New York and we hadn't got married yet. Eventually I was like, look, you need to put a ring on it so we can live in the same country. So we did that. And then obviously COVID hit. So it was a very financially and just like physically unstable time for me, growing my business. I didn't really have a home country. I was, accounting in multiple currencies because I was traveling all over the world. And
I remember that too.
Yeah, it was pretty complicated. So yeah, things are a lot more simple now, but it was a huge learning curve for me. And I started working as a freelance writer because I had a big burnout from my previous career in film. And I really wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I had no business background. So I was just kind of figuring it out. And then, obviously I worked with you. I was attracting a lot of coaches as clients for my copywriting work. And that really just like taught me about the coaching industry, and I discovered all these amazing people and, obviously ended up working with multiple coaches and really educating myself about business and more about mindset, money mindset, business mindset. And that, significantly grew my income. And while I was working with clients, helping them tell their stories and their digital marketing, I could see, I was working with a lot of women, especially a lot of like solopreneurs. And I could see that you could have the most perfect piece of copy, but if the mindset wasn't there, you weren't going to take that messaging or that website or that sales page and actually go and make sales and, and like follow through. So I really wanted to bring the mindset work into what I was doing with clients. And that's what inspired me to start my own coaching business, pretty shortly after I'd started my copywriting agency. And I pretty much walked away from writing copy for clients and I started launching my own programs, and the rest is history. That was in 2017. And I was really focused on mindset for creatives. Then I kind of brought back some of my, copywriting skills and content strategy and started focusing more on helping people with the business side of things. And since then I've brought in astrology, which has been a really helpful tool for me. Obviously I use that to understand myself more deeply and to just get clarity on which things to put my energy behind. Because, I'm sure you relate, as a creative in business, we, often we're good at so many things and we want to do so many things. And it's really being able to decide and commit and follow through on our ideas that actually brings things to fruition. So astrology was a really helpful tool for me around those things, and especially in storytelling and building my brand and, really getting clear on who I wanted to serve and what like my main message was.
Right.
So then I started helping, using that as a tool to help clients to get that clarity really quickly. And
yeah, I wanted to ask you, because I found that to be super unique. Like, I haven't seen that really anywhere. I mean, the digital marketing know-how with the money mindset, with astrology, that's a pretty unique combo.
Yeah.
And I loved it. But like, how did that happen? How did the astrology come into your world?
So it was kind of funny. I actually ended up, and I don't do this very often, you know, when you randomly see a post on Instagram for a workshop and then you sign up spontaneously.
It is weird, right? Why is that so weird? I don't know, but I feel so like, I can't believe I'm signing up for this because I saw a post on Instagram, but I've done it too.
And I did it, and I really connected with the astrologer. It was like an 1111 portal, some type of circle, and she really connected with me during that workshop, and she reached out to me and she wanted to do some research questions and kind of gave me a bit of a astrology reading, and then we just became really good friends because she's an incredible person. This is Natalie Holbrook, and I ended up in her first astrology course. And, you know, I came into it like, oh, I'm a beginner, I have so much to learn. But I realized that there was actually so much I already knew because I'd kind of just been consuming videos on YouTube. And, you know, I self-soothe through online learning. Like, I'm just constantly consuming.
I'm the same, but I've never put it that way. That's why you're a copywriter.
So it just kind of made me realize that I did know a lot. And obviously there's, you know, astrology is so vast. There's so much to learn. So I always feel like I hardly know anything. But yeah, it just, you know, I find it gave me a lot of confirmation of the intuitive things that I was feeling really called to talk about and to share and to step into. And I love that, you know, our astrology chart shows us that we are like everything all at once, you know, like we have a little bit of all of these qualities. Some of them we have more strengths around, some of them we're more challenged around, but I find it really validating. You know, especially as someone who's experienced a lot of self-doubt and a lot of like low self-worth that I've had to work through, which really working on my relationship with money brought up for me. And then I don't know, the addiction just like took hold. I feel like astrology is one of those things. I think a lot of other people feel the same. Like the more you learn, the more you want to learn. Cool. It's a really powerful tool for self-reflection. So obviously I wanted to see all of my clients' charts and just started kind of like naturally bringing it in. And then over the, you know, it's been, I think, 4 years since I've really been bringing it in. And now I'm bringing it much more forward in my branding and my messaging and the content that I create.
That's so great. I mean, I love that. I think any additional tools like that can enlighten people, it's just, I mean, you don't know what it is that's just going to cause the light bulb to go off in your mind and be able to see all the possibilities that maybe you haven't seen before.
Right.
So.
And I think with money especially, and especially with business, it's about making really powerful decisions, right? And following through and taking action and not just acting on impulse, but like really seeing your idea through till the end. And I think because I work with creatives and people who have a lot of talents and passions and a really big heart and who tend to have issues around charging lots of money, you know, because of all of that cultural conditioning around it, not know all of the negative brainwashing we have around asking for money and receiving money and being financially abundant and the internal resistance that we often have when we're not actively working through that. So, you know, helping people to see like, this is your gift. These are the types of people you're most compatible to serve. Here are your challenges and the reasons why some of these things are hard for you. And here are some practices and rituals and mindsets that are really going to help you get over that. And, you know, I think that's always going to get us there faster, is learning what our strengths are, actively leaning into them, and understanding how to support ourselves with the things that we are challenged by.
Right. Oh, I love that. So tell me a little, like, as you got more engaged with, you know, your own money and started to see more money coming in, and obviously the more money you're bringing in, the more you have to manage it, and well, you should anyway. You don't have to, I guess, but you're better off if you do. So how did you start to feel inside just about yourself, your own confidence, your own sense of security, all of that?
This is a great question. Because I feel like before I made my first 6 figures, like obviously my confidence level was already there. You know, I think the results match where you get to internally first, right? So really learning to release money anxiety, I had a lot of emotional reactivity around money, but knowing that I still had to show up and take the actions and look at my numbers, even if it was highly, highly emotionally uncomfortable for me. So really building the skills around that and learning to detach from fear and worry and anxious thoughts that I, were obviously just patterns that I had been living in previously. So by the time I was making a lot of money, I was so committed to my goal. I was so focused. I was taking so much action that by the time it came around, it was just very normal and expected for me, know.
That's great.
But then I made my first 6 figures and I was like, oh, I've made it. Like, I'm rich. I'm never going to need another credit card again in my whole life. I had like my first 5-figure month was a 20K month. And I literally thought I was going to be rich forever. And it was like, and then I had to go through the process of realizing that, it's a whole other level to like maintain the new level. Yeah. And there's still so much I had to learn.
But that is a huge accomplishment. I mean, that is kind of like a milestone that when you get to, it does shift who you are and it shifts your own identity a bit.
Right. And I've had some ups and downs since. I've had other 6-figure years. I've had years that have dipped below that.
Right.
I've obviously been through a lot of personal challenges in the last few years with emigrating and just having a lot of like instability. My partner went through his medical residency, which was just like, during the pandemic, which was so stressful.
Oh, wow.
So, learning to maintain my business and not only to maintain it, but continue to grow it in a way that continues to bring me joy and to support my life and my health and to be able to put all of those things that I value first before my business, which has always been the way that I've run things, which I think is very common for a lot of like women and creatives and entrepreneurs, is that we, I think when we are feeling challenged by money, it's useful to realize that there are so many things that we value more than money, and that's why we often choose those things over money, like feeling safe or having time with family or having time to take care of your health. And, often that's very unconscious choices because we believe we can't have money and those things.
That's a great
point. Having to rewire our belief that we can have it all.
Yeah.
And one thing I realized was I just have to continue with the money work. It's like these are mindsets that if I want to continue to live from this place of limitlessness and abundance, I have to continue to opt into these belief systems. And it does take continual work because those old thought patterns, they've been ingrained for years and years, however many generations of our families that have passed them down to us.
Right.
So, I did get complacent and I did let it slip for a little bit. And, life challenges coming up with the moving and all of that stuff, I did get a bit wobbly. But I think everything happens for a reason. And, we're faced with these challenges and it really forced me to just get even better at doing what I know how to do and to really ground myself not only in the mindset and the energetics, but also the strategy and learning when to lean on each of these toolkits during different moments in life, So, definitely, it's so powerful to know that and to remind ourselves, because I think we often forget results that we've created in the past are proof that we can do it again whenever we want to,
Such a good way to think of it. And, I appreciate your honesty and openness about this, because I think every entrepreneur, there's never a straight line, up with entrepreneurship or really anything. I think that's one thing where there are a lot of mistakes in thinking around money that if you just do the formula or, follow whatever, it's going to be somehow a straight path. And like nothing is a straight path. And money is the same. It's going to come and go and it's going to go up and down. And you're going to, some of it will be in your control, some of it not. But I think there has to be that expectation that it's not going to be a smooth ride,
Right. And I think the biggest skill has been to just opt out of money anxiety, that's what I learned how to do. And
well, for people who are listening going, well, how the heck do you do that? Can you give us a story or something on that one?
Sure. And I go deeply into this in my book because learning to heal my relationship with money actually caused me to actually heal a lot of trauma from my own life, because I would sit down to work on my money and it would bring up all of these really overwhelming feelings of like insecurity, of powerlessness, of a lack of safety, which it does, right? Because it's so intrinsically connected to our day-to-day ability to eat and like pay rent and live in this, crazy money,
Yeah.
like focused world that we live in. And so I started listening to those emotions and questioning, like, where are these emotional reactions coming from? What is the belief system underneath it? And where did that come from? And that, caused me to go and look back in my childhood at times where I had been powerless and I had not felt safe in my body. And, learning to heal these emotional like trauma responses, essentially, that were being triggered in my relationship with money, which I think is very common for a lot of people, especially women, especially people who have grown up who maybe have had experiences where they haven't been safe, like they've experienced like abuse or, like being like either emotionally abused or physically abused, which is very common for a lot of people. And so in healing, that relationship to my own emotional responses, which really came out of building that diligent practice in spending time with my money and learning to recognize that, okay, I'm getting reactive because I don't feel safe, because I feel powerless.
Right.
But I can still take the action. I can breathe through the sensation and I can add up how much money I made this month. I can pay attention to how many debts I have. I can make decisions based on the data and really just, like building that diligent practice, that money date where I'm checking in and making decisions based on the data and, obviously taking care of my emotion and doing the like emotional healing work around that.
Yeah.
And then in those moments, in building that presence with myself, learning the awareness to be able to recognize, okay, I'm having an emotional reaction right now and I'm feeding into a story about money because that's the thing that's bothering me or has my attention right now, and to learn to detach that and be like, okay, what if instead of telling myself, oh, there's not enough money, oh, I'm not going to be able to pay my bills, oh, it's not going to work out, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm never going to get another client, whatever the panic story is that's attached to that emotion, what if I just start telling myself, like, I'll always have enough money. What if I'll figure it out? What if there's a way for me to make more money today? And in shifting my attention, obviously, and this has happened to me so many times where the money anxiety has cropped back up again. Right. And suddenly the blinkers go on and I didn't even notice that there was an email in my inbox from a new client that wanted to work with me because I was so wrapped up in the story. Yeah. And so doing the daily mindset work to refocus on there's always enough money, I can figure it out, everything's going to be fine, money is a renewable resource, there's always a new opportunity, like every day brings an opportunity to bring in more money. Right. That refocusing, suddenly I'm going to be way more inspired to take action and to go and sell my offers or to do a reach out or go and get visible in front of new clients and take the actions that actually lead to more money.
Oh, that's so good. And I love the consciousness of this is where my mind's going. This is where it's taking me. And I have to opt out. I have to tell myself some new stories and, give myself some new mantras or whatever it's going to take. And whether you believe it in the moment or not, I mean, your stomach can still be churning about, I'm going to go broke here. But in your mind, that's where it all starts. It's all the thinking. And so to be able to have that control over your mind and do it even if it doesn't feel that real in the moment, because that's what's going to create like the next wave of better reality kind of. It's
100%. Yeah. The way that has helped me to think about this is like hygiene, money hygiene. And I talk about this in my book. It's like you don't brush your teeth on Monday and expect to have nice breath on Friday. It's like analogy. Same thing with your money. If you work on your money one day of the month, like who knows where you're going to be by the end of the month, right? So it's like if you want to have a better and better and better relationship with money, work on your money every day, even if it's like 5 minutes. I call it money flossing. Like just write down like what are the thoughts that are coming up for you right now. Write them down, put a timer on for 3 minutes, hit that timer again and just flip each of those stories. And, I see my mind as like the GPS. And it's what destination are we plugging in, Like that's a choice that we get to make. So having these rituals and practices to point it in the direction that we want to go in you're more likely going to end up there than just,
absolutely,
wherever it was roaming around before without your input.
Yeah. Or if you go with your feelings, I have a coach who tells me, your feelings, because I'm always big on, address your feelings and think about them. And he'll say, well, yeah, but sometimes your feelings are traitors and they aren't working for you. They're working very much against you.
Right.
So you have to be discerning with your own feelings, which is, I think, kind of fascinating. I mean, once you kind of get in the habit of doing it, your whole inner, your thinking, your feelings, your beliefs, all of this stuff becomes its own little world that you're kind of observing and managing in a way. And it's kind of cool. I mean, it gives you power over your life.
Right. And
That's cool.
I think it is a skill set.
It is.
And with any skill set, it gets easier the more you do it.
Exactly.
It was very challenging for me in the beginning.
Right.
And, and I did have to set aside a couple of hours a week to really process my emotions and to use those tools. I love emotional freedom tapping. Hypnotherapy has been really great for releasing emotional patterns from the body.
Right.
And I think that work is really important and really, non-negotiable to start to create new patterns. We have to create those new emotional responses. We have to process our emotions.
Right.
Because, and I write about this in my book too, with me ignoring unprocessed emotions, I wasn't connected to my desires. When we're numbing out or we're avoiding or dissociating, you're also not connected to those intuitive impulses of the things that are meant for you.
Right.
And the things that you love the most, that you're most
point.
passionate about, you have to know, nobody knows what that is for you. Everyone's different, right?
Yeah.
And especially when you have your own business and you're an entrepreneur, or it doesn't really matter. If you have a career, you have to make the choices that are right for you. No one can tell you those answers. You have to go inside for those.
Yes.
So you have to develop that sensitivity. Because as I've seen over and over again for myself and clients, when we go after the things that we really desire and we really are excited about, those are the things that work out.
I know.
Because they're meant for us. We have the passion and the commitment and the determination to see it through. It's more fun for us, so it's easier for us. So, it's so important to listen to ourselves.
Well, that is such a beautiful message and so well articulated, because that was why I started my company in the beginning, because the world will try to tell you what you should do, what you should do, not just with, for your career. I really did not like all the messaging around how to pick a career and what you should be doing. And, then people are stuck in something that was never really for them, but they thought it was what they should do. And so I love that you combine the money and doing work you love, because I just think, the money is what allows you to have the business that you want, or to have, to change careers, or, to do almost anything. So the money piece is enormously important, and that will lead to doing what you want to do.
Right. So. And I think so often money is the reason why we don't do the things that we want.
Exactly.
And usually we're unconsciously making that decision because we decided a long time ago that we didn't want to do the things that we thought we had to do to get money. So
Right.
I'd rather just settle for this thing that I think is available to me, or I think is easy. And so that's why I think it's such a great message, why I wrote this book. If we just do that work on our relationship with money, then it opens up for so many things in our life. And it no longer needs to be the reason why we say no, or we settle, or we sacrifice. And, my story is just like a perfect testament to you do not have to have any absolute tiny clue of what you want to do. You just need to take one step at a time. I never even saw myself as a writer until I'd already quit the film industry and was trying to make it as an entrepreneur. I went to work with my friend in Bali, and I was helping her with her social media, and I just happened to be chiming in on a meeting about her website, and she was like, "Oh, you're really good at writing copy." And I was like, "What's copy?" Within a few months, I had a full-time business as a copywriter. So I didn't even know what the coaching industry was. Within a year and a half, I had a 6-figure coaching business. So it just goes to show, just one step at a time, following the breadcrumbs, following what feels a little bit more exciting. You never know where it will lead you.
Yeah, that is the path. People are like, how do I find my passion? Well, that's what you do. You follow the breadcrumbs and you try things and do different things and get out there outside of your comfort zone and follow the path that's being, revealed to you. But that takes some skill too. A lot of times we don't recognize those signs so you have to be on the lookout. And you were on the lookout for a better way to do money. You knew it didn't feel good the way it currently was in your life. And I think that's a message for people too. It's like, don't be okay with feeling miserable with money or scared or whatever, but also don't think that you can necessarily figure it out on your own. It's tricky. You can't really see those things about yourself that somebody else can see or hear about and kind of decipher.
Yeah, and I think that's just such an important message, that it is a skill set. And that's something that I learned. I always thought one of the stories that I had growing up was that money wasn't for someone like me, right? Yeah. Because the town that we lived in, we lived next to one of the most expensive boys' boarding schools in the world, where boys were flown in from all over the world, and we knew they had designer clothes. They went on international holidays. Their families had pools, and me and my brothers and sisters were like, we have so much less money than these people, and that was a constant reality that we were talking about and navigating within our family, and that was just a belief that got instilled that some people just have more opportunity and we're not that type of person.
Right.
And then obviously that plays out as you grow up, and the choices I made and what I thought I could go for, what I thought was available to me or not. Yeah. And so I had to rewrite that identity. And I created the money identity rebirth process in my book, which really guides people through the process that I went through and examining what is my identity in relationship to money, and where did it come from my role models growing up, and is this helpful or do I need a new one?
Yeah.
And how to actually create a new identity that is going to set you up to create the type of life that you want and that you choose and isn't just on autopilot. And I learned that you can have anything that you want if you're willing to take action and build the skill to be the type of person who can create that.
Right.
And I think that's such an empowering message. And I really do believe that. I do believe that anybody, especially now, can create more access to wealth. Yeah. Obviously, everybody starts in a different place, and people definitely have different access to different resources, and they have different work to overcome and different, support systems.
Right.
But, when I was in Bali. I tell this story in my book. I went out there for a job. The job fell apart. I was in so much debt from finishing my master's degree. I was completely burnt out. It was the first time I had a panic attack, and it was about money. And I just applied for a bunch of credit cards. And that's how I started my business. Yeah. And, and I started working with coaches for free before I could afford to pay them. And, I was resourceful. Obviously, I have a lot of privilege, and I acknowledge that. But I think just starting where you are at with whatever you can get your hands on and just taking it one step at a time, you can build new skills and you can build new results.
Yeah, beautifully said. And of course, what comes up for people is the uncomfortableness of not knowing how it's going to go. So you get all the credit cards, and you have the resolve and the dream, but that feeling of, but there's no guarantee here. And so how did you kind of wrestle with that?
Yeah, I wish I could say I'm just super courageous and was a massive risk taker. But I honestly felt like my back was against the wall. I think something that's common amongst highly creative people is a very low tolerance for things that we don't enjoy. Yeah, and I think that's always driven me. And, I knew I couldn't go back to film because that was 18-hour days on set, and I was physically very burnt out. I'd given up my apartment in Vancouver. I was in Indonesia. I no longer had a job. So, it really was a survival move to apply for the credit cards. But, and definitely overspending has been one of my toxic habits with money that I've had to learn to shift. But, I definitely don't regret it. And I think now I have much more of a balanced approach to risks and investments, and I've had to learn that.
Nice.
So I think it's, and I think honestly the thing that got my results to unfold so quickly was just taking one baby step at a time in building that trust in myself. And I already had a fair amount of trust that when I take a leap, it pays off, because when I got my work visa to go out to Vancouver and I had enough money to live for 1 month, you know, I had no idea if it was going to work out. I wanted to work in the film industry. I handed out my resumes. You know, I like did everything I could. It turns out to be the easiest thing in the whole world to get a job in film in Vancouver, because it's such a big industry and everyone works in the film industry. So I was like, what's this magical land of everything working out for me? And I had a British accent and everyone loved that. And, you know, it was very different to the UK, where it's very competitive and everyone's like, you have to work for free to get a job in film, and really like tramples your dreams. But, you know, so I had that evidence of when I take a risk, when I take a leap towards something that I really want, magic can happen and it can work out for me. And, you know, and it really did. And I think because I came with that like blank slate and really was willing to put myself out there. And I was like, you know, worst case scenario, I run out of money and I just buy a flight home, you know, if it didn't work out. So, you know, it was when I look back on how did I build that self-trust? Yeah. It was, you know, a combination of things that I had tried that had actually given me evidence. Right. So I think I would suggest that to people, like take a small risk. Yeah. You know, even if it doesn't work, try again, you know, and just keep trying until something pays off. And then you have that evidence, and that's going to give you more confidence and more self-belief, and you'll start to take bigger and bigger and bigger risks.
Right. I love the evidence piece, because that's a big practice of mine, is sort of documenting and reflecting on evidence. And evidence can come in a million different ways, you know, so it's not just money in the bank. It's like everything that you've sort of you wanted and it showed up in some form. And but we go through life, you know, focused on what we're focused on, and we miss some of it. So I think it's really important to journal or sit down and make sure you're seeing the evidence, because then you can go back to that kind of thinking and go, well, in the past, you know, I have this evidence. So it's important that is a trust builder.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a lot of value in being slightly delusional. Yeah. You know, I think like as a culture, we really like discourage that. Yeah. And actually, if you want to create something that's never been created, you have to be a visionary. You have to believe in something that doesn't exist, which is kind of what being delusional is. Yeah. And so, you know, and it's really all, for me, been about creating safe spaces where I can share something that I really care about or that I really desire, and know that it's going to be received and that people are going to encourage me, you know, because I think often we share ideas with people who don't get it, or they feel threatened when we're changing the status quo, or they want to squash us. You know, it's like tall poppy syndrome, they call it in Australia. Where
what is it called again?
Tall poppy syndrome. It's this notion that we don't like it when someone from the pack raises up higher than us, because then it makes us feel insecure and like we're not good enough. And so we want to bring everybody down to the same level. And we kind of like, as a culture, are unconsciously always trying to do that. Yeah. And so it's so important who you surround yourself with. And I definitely, you know, think it's been a blessing that I've moved so many times. I've traveled to 18 different countries and, you know, since becoming an entrepreneur. I like left where I was from, and it definitely made me realize that I'm unique because I lived in places where, you know, I was one of the only English people I knew when I was living in Montreal, and everyone was from all over the world, and, you know, people were like, oh, I love your accent, where are you from? And everyone was interested in everybody else, and everyone saw that everyone was different, and that kind of gave me permission to fully be myself. And I think sometimes when you're always surrounded by people who are similar to you, it's harder to see what makes you unique, or if you are unconsciously kind of like acting out social codes that you've either grown up in or got used to. And you really do have to reinvent yourself if you want to create a different life.
That is so true, and something we forget. We keep trying to tweak the existing life into what we want, but really sometimes you have to completely like wipe the slate clean and rethink. But I want to just go back for a minute, because you clearly are a visionary, and I think you always were, and you've created so much, you know, so you're kind of a magical visionary. But you mentioned earlier about the data, and that's the piece I think people get carried away sometimes with all of this and forget that there is some, when it comes to money anyway, there is some concrete data and some actions that need to incorporate that data into the decision making. So I love that you recognize that, because, and if you're just a data person and you don't understand the mindset and the relationship with money, that was me when I was a CPA back in the day. And that's what was so shocking to me when I learned about money mindset is you can know all the practical money things, but you won't do them, You won't follow all the rules, even though you know them. So it's this combination a little bit of both.
Yeah, totally. It's like we have our control panel. I feel like our soul and our like desires and our emotion are the things that are like driving the direction. And then our mind is the thing we have to get on board. And then our human is the thing that will resist all of it unless we take care of it,
Perfect. Yeah.
It's like your human is like a dog that you need to train to go along with the plan that you want it to go along with, because it's always trying to stay in its little routines and things that, it's trying to keep you safe.
Yeah.
And you definitely have to come at it from every angle. And to be honest with you, that's how I created such massive transformation in my relationship with money. Because I did it with my health first. I had a big burnout. I was in a big emotional health crisis. I was having 6 p.m. headaches. I don't know whether you're familiar with Saturn's return. It's an astrological moment in your life where Saturn comes back into the place where it was at the time that you were born. And Saturn is like that teacher that is here to give you the hard lessons in life, and it's here to keep you on track with what your soul wants to achieve in this lifetime. So if you're off track, it's going to give you some really hard lessons, and it kind of shakes you up. You either get it around age 28 to 30, or you get it around age 50.
Interesting.
And that was the case for me. Everything came grinding to a halt. I lost my health. I had to delay my studies. I, really was being called to go inside and listen to myself.
Yeah.
And I had chronic fatigue for 5 years. It was one of those immuno situations that there wasn't really a clear answer to, that I had to do a lot of digging. And I learned that if I just come at it from every single angle and I never give up and I have that mindset that I'm going to get better, and it worked for me.
Yeah.
When, for a long time it felt like it wasn't working.
Right.
And that showed me, if I can do this with that dire situation in my health, why don't I do that with my money? And so just that willingness to try absolutely everything within my power and keep going until I get to my goal, that's really what it took, and it works.
Oh, I love it. That is so good. I'm so inspired. I'm also super sad about the time because so I want to just give you some time to talk more about the book, because the book comes out on the 5th, which is 3 days from now.
Yeah.
Okay. And the name of the book again is?
Yeah, thank you. It's The 6-Figure Creative, Heal Your Relationship with Money Doing the Work That You Love. Okay. And it's really documenting what it took to get to my first 6-figure year and all of that internal healing work that kind of came up as a result of looking at my relationship with money and why it wasn't working for me and why I had money anxiety and why I was undercharging and overworking and, not organized and avoiding. And so I look at, share a lot of my own money stories and the roots of my belief systems and where they came from. And I share very tangible tools for people to do that for themselves.
Nice.
And, share very tangible journaling practices and money mindset practices to start to transform your own relationship with money and to really listen to yourself and to, believe that you can do what it is that you want to do. You can create, you can do whatever you want with your career and your work and your life, and you can do it on your terms by building the belief system and the identity that allows that to unfold for you.
Oh, yay. Okay. I'm so excited to read it myself, and I'm so excited to share it with people. And thank you so much. I want you to tell people, too, you have a podcast and there are many ways to work with you. So let's...
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
You can check out my website at sarahmac.com. And my podcast is Creative Magic Club, where I talk a lot about money and business and astrology and content strategy. And... there's so many ways to work with me. So get in touch, reach out. I'd love to have a conversation.
And the podcast is called?
Creative Magic Club.
Okay. And and the new Instagram?
My Instagram is Sarah Mac Magic.
Okay.
And everything is linked from my website. So that's a good place to start. And I have a lot of free resources around money mindset. So definitely go check those out.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I love this conversation, and I love all the ways that you explained things. And there's so much more we could talk about. So maybe you'll come back.
I would love to. And thank you for getting me on the right track with money. I wouldn't be here if I...
There's nothing better than seeing somebody's success and joy around it. So, and you're good... you're a good testament to what can happen if you do start paying attention to money. Because I know if you're working with creatives, I know the majority of them are thinking about everything but money and then agonizing over it at the same time. So, but that's, I think, as I move myself forward in this work, I really am more passionate about just helping women in general. I mean, creators have a whole other set of things as well, but there's this, I think women in general are just, they've been a little left behind on all of this, or a lot left behind, I don't know, and just really need to hear the messages that are in your book. And I think to learn about money for women, I think means more books like yours, and less like some other people's I know that just give you a formula that you have to follow, whether it feels good or not and works for you or not. Right. And maybe it won't actually get you to wealthy. It'll get you to out of debt or, some sort of low level kind of place.
Right. And I think just talking about it and knowing there's no right or wrong way to do money, it's very individual, it's very unique. Yeah. And the more we talk about it, the more you're willing to have conversations on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. Through amazing content like your podcast, through having uncomfortable conversations with your partner and your family. That's how real change is created. Yeah, that's right. And for women to feel like, ooh, I shouldn't be talking. I mean, women talk about everything except money. It's so weird when you really start thinking about it. Yeah, that's one of my quotes that I was pulling actually for my social media. It's there's so much shame around it, and where there's shame, there's disempowerment. Yeah. And you can't build a skill around something that you're not willing to talk about. Right. So we have to be willing to get uncomfortable and have those uncomfortable conversations and to make other people uncomfortable if we want to have a better relationship with money. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. That's a great way to wrap up. So thank you so much for coming and for just showing up in my life again. I'm so happy about it, and I'm super excited about your success and your continued success. So I'll put in the show notes the links to things, and yes, this was great. Great to have you on. Great to have you listening. And thank you so much for listening to the Money and You Show. I am thrilled to bring guests like Sarah Mack to the show. And I hope you got a lot out of it. And you can, of course, read her book and get even more wisdom from her. And if you like the show, please share it with your friends and rate and review us if you can. We would love that. It helps us to continue to bring wonderful guests on every single week. So thank you, and we'll see you next week.